ask me out of mere curiosity what my favorite Nintendo franchise is, then I would respond with 100% certainty that it's none other than Mario.
It's a Mario.
But if you were to ask me my second favorite, then I would respond with the series starting everyone's favorite round and pink multi-dimensional threat, Kirby. I fucking love Kirby, man. Ever since I played Kirby Superstar Ultra back in my DS when I was really young, I knew that there was something special about this pink puffball, and over the years my love for the franchise has grown. Even some of the weaker Kirby games like Star Allies I consider to be pretty decent. But if there's something that I've come to learn about this franchise, it's that it's really fucking easy to be a Kirby fan. I mean, think about it. Getting a game at least once a year, whether it's a mainline title or a short mini adventure only available in the eShop, a lot of merchandise, amazing lore, incredible visuals, a great soundtrack, a charming cast of characters, goated content creators that talk about the franchise, it's the whole package and I love it. And it's pretty damn clear that the team behind Kirby, HAL Laboratory, clearly adores this franchise and its history. So obviously I wanted to find an excuse to talk about the franchise in this channel at least once, but I never really knew exactly what to tackle. I basically share a lot of the more general Kirby game opinions that a lot of people have, like for example, Kirby Star Allies is good, but at launch it was mid, or Kirby Return to Dreamland is amazing. Like, come on, that's fucking boring. I don't want to do that. But then I thought about something. If you've been a viewer of mine for at least a while, then you should know that I tend to talk about cartoons based on video games at least once a year. It's something that I really didn't want to intentionally do, but the concept alone of cartoons created based on a video game property have always been a weird circle of animation that I found fascinating. And of course, Nintendo isn't a stranger to this concept. I started talking about them back in 2021 when I talked about the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, with a special guest interview with Michael Anthony Rollins talking about Club Mario. Then last year in 2022, I talked about the Parappa the Rapper anime that was only available in Japan for a couple years, only to get localized on YouTube a few years later. And as you can probably tell where I'm going with this, I'll be continuing this trend in 2023 talking about the Kirby anime. It's the name that you should know, and it's the star of the show. It's Kirby Right Back At Ya. And how can you not know about this show? Especially with that catchy ass theme song that's been stuck in my head since 2012 when I first found out about the show's existence. Kirby Right Back At Ya first released in Japan, spawning over 100 episodes from October 6, 2001 until ending 2 years later on September 27, 2003, starting to release a dub version over in the US in September 2002 through Foxbox, if any of you actually remember what that is. The development of this anime is generally pretty interesting. A lot of big name people over at Nintendo had a huge hand when creating the show, with the series' original creator, Masahiro Sakurai, being the lead supervisor of the show, wanting it to be a cartoon that both parents and children may enjoy alike, just like the games. Although at first they did have some problem finding their footing, but as the show kept going, they started to feel a lot more confident about the show itself. As for the English dub version of the show, that was done by 4Kids Entertainment, and for anybody that has ever heard of their name, this could be either a blessing or a curse, and I'm kinda leaning more for the former just for the obvious ironic reasons. Before the show aired on TV, however, there was a pilot made for the show, which was only available through a DVD special edition, which you could only find in a gaming magazine? I mean, sure, I guess. But God bless the internet for their ability to find weirdly obscure nerd shit, because that was uploaded on YouTube. So the pilot is around 4 minutes long, and wow, this looks very rough. But at the same time, you can kind of see a small vision of what the show would eventually become. Although I will say that it did resemble itself a lot more like the Kirby Adventure series of games, rather than the more similar ones to the Nightmare in Dreamland version. Hell, even having a guest appearance from Dark Matter itself, looking very bored and not wanting to be there at all. But don't worry, Nightmare does show up at the end, so that's cool, I guess. But that's enough of the history. What's the show about? The show follows Kirby, a small, childlike creature who is destined to become a star warrior, but one day crash lands on Planet Popstar and Poo Poo Village, a place created solely for the anime, ruled by everyone's favorite blue penguin, King Dedede, who's working with the major antagonist organization of the show, Nightmare Enterprises, or Enemy for short. Get it? Enemy? Cause it's like enemy. Do you get it? So it's up to Kirby to stop Dedede and his nefarious plans while making friends along the way in a comedic Monster of the Week fashion, getting a new power to stop them in each episode. And I think the perfect way to start singing this show's praises, as well as its weaknesses, has to be with its character, starting off with Kirby, and unless you're actively trying to, it's really hard to fuck up Kirby's character, and considering that Father Sakurai was working on the show, yeah, it's safe to say that Kirby's character remains pretty faithful. He's still the adorable, cute, monster-killing, gumball-shaped whatever species he is. And just like Kirby, King Dedede and Meta Knight remain pretty faithful to their game counterparts, as well as giving them some creative liberties. Let's start with King Dedede first, who has the least changes done to him. Dedede acts as well as you expect him in earlier Kirby games, mainly an unfair ruler who puts himself on a high pedestal while looking down at everyone else, especially Kirby. With that said, he's the best character in this entire show, and there's absolutely no contest. Everything about him just sparks personality, whether it's his bombastic attitude or his hilarious voice. As for Meta Knight, unlike how the pilot depicted him, unlike King Dedede, he acts a lot how his character would become in later games. Less like an enemy to Kirby, but more like a silent mentor to him, as well as being a protector of the village. I really like Meta Knight when he shows up, but they really underutilize him. He just kind of shows up sometimes, and that's about it. Oh wait, I forgot to mention the most important part.
The king is not the problem, for now. Now we have to find the real monster.
He's Mexican in the dub version! I don't know who thought of that in 4Kids Entertainment, but like, whoever thought of that, please, I hope they gave you a raise, man. Like, oh my god. But aside of these 3 characters, the rest of the main cast of the show are all brand new characters made specifically for this show. First, we got Tiff, Kirby's closest friend and the smartest character of the show. The best way I could really describe her is that she's basically the Kirby version of Lisa Simpson. She's smart, but she has a short temper, and she's pretty annoying most of the time. There's also Tuff, who's Tiff's brother, and he's the complete opposite of her. An immature, dumb kid who's brave. That's about it, really. He isn't really that memorable, to be honest. As for the new villain characters, this has Skargoon, who's King Dedede's assistant and right-hand man. And from what I've seen, you either love this guy and you wish he was actually part of the Kirby canon universe, or hate him and is glad that he's only part of the show. Or you can be like me and don't think much of him and just think he's an okay character. His inclusion does not add a lot to the series, but it doesn't make it any worse either. And finally, we got the Nightmare Enterprises salesman, who I'm convinced will become another sexy man the moment the internet remembers this show. I can already see the hear me out tweets from a mile away. But jokes aside, he's probably my favorite character out of the brand new batch of characters introduced in this show. So with the characters out of the way, how's the writing? Well, like I mentioned earlier, the show follows a simple monster of the week formula. There is a bit of an overarching plot, I guess, but a lot of the episodes play out as one another. But I think where Right Back At You succeeds in most is that it takes an already established formula but adds its own unique spin to it, so it doesn't make watching every episode feel like the same. Plus, it's also thanks to this simplistic formula that almost anybody can enjoy the show. And I know for a fact that Kirby fans are definitely going to enjoy the most watching this show for the amount of references it has. But at the same time, I can totally understand that this kind of formula doesn't work for some people, because like I said, there is somewhat of an overarching plot, but with 100 episodes, it feels weird to really get the hang of this show's story, especially if you're watching the 4Kids version, considering that they fuck up the order of release of the episodes, so they can co-release with a release of a Kirby game. I like how they just randomly drop one of the episodes from the 5-part finale, just so they can co-release with Kirby Air Ride. And even with that, the show itself is just kinda in writing, you know? Like, it isn't bad, the show definitely has its moments, whether it's a cool action sequence, or the plenty of memes spawning from this show, but it's not something that you can really binge watch. Like, I spent around 3 days watching all 100 episodes, and I think around the second day, I just realized how much of a slog this shit's gonna be if I keep watching it non-stop. But hey, I pushed through, and outside of those final episodes, and a few of the middle, I come to realize that this show's just painfully boring. But what about the animation? Well, I think the 2D animation is pretty solid for the most part. It's expressive and cute, which does fit the tone of the Kirby games really well. The backgrounds look fine, I guess. Nothing really detailed, but it gets the job done, and it's colorful enough to not be anything bad. Unfortunately, I can't really say the same for the 3D animation. If you don't know, and if you don't know, I definitely recommend getting your eyes checked or something. The show sometimes likes to switch from traditional 2D animation to 3D animation, which, and I really hate using this term, definitely reaches an uncanny valley type of off-putting, and they like to use it a ton, and I'm not gonna lie, it definitely makes the show look outdated in comparison to other cartoons based on video games, especially with the fact that they make it really obvious when they switch to 3D animation by making the lines thicker. The animation as a whole is just a mixed bag. That's about it. Oh shit, I just realized something. I'm making a Kirby video, and I don't have Squill in it. You know, Squill. Like, his avatar is literally just Kirby would wander over yonder. Like, his literal original YouTube name was Kirby over yonder. I need to change that real quick. Squill, you gotta get in this, bro.
Hey gang, it's Squill, and as a certified Kirby enjoyer, you'd think I, of all people, would love the Kirby anime, Kirby Right Back At Ya. After all, it's a show that's very nostalgic for me. I still remember discovering it on Kirby's Dream Collection for the Wii, and just being astonished by the fact that there even was a Kirby TV show. I remember watching those 3 episodes over and over again, and eventually watched the rest of the show on YouTube. It was actually the first anime I had ever gotten into. So in a roundabout way, I would have never seen Death Note if it weren't for Kirby. And to this day, I still hold those fond memories closely, so believe me when I say that Kirby Right Back At Ya kinda sucks. Now, I know that may sound harsh, but when I say Kirby Right Back At Ya sucks, I mean as an adaptation of the games. As a standalone show, it's fine, like it's pretty whatever, but as a Kirby show, it is severely lacking for many reasons. And one of the biggest reasons why is Kirby himself. I absolutely hate the decision to make Kirby essentially a baby in this show, because it removes any and all agency he could have from the plot. In the games, Kirby would always take charge and try to help whoever he could. He'd never go out of his way looking for an adventure, but he'd always be able to recognize real threats and danger. Compared that to the anime where he's basically treated like a Pokemon, only actually doing anything when Tiff tells him to. Otherwise, he basically just derps around, barely ever contributing anything to the plot. At worst, he's a baby, and at best, he's basically just a weapon. Kirby never actually feels like a protagonist. He's basically treated like a side character in his own show. Instead, our main protagonists are these kids Tiff and Tuff, who are essentially just discount versions of Bart and Lisa Simpson. Tiff and Tuff suck, man. They're so whiny and annoying, and I just hate them. I'm genuinely curious if anyone, even people who like the show, enjoy Tiff and Tuff as characters. This is a Kirby show. Why isn't Kirby the protagonist? Why do we spend so much more time with these annoying-ass kids? But hey, Kirby isn't the only one wildly out of character. Just look at Dedede. In the show, Dedede is essentially portrayed as a tyrannical dictator. He hates Kirby and abuses his assistant, Escargoon. The Dedede we get in Kirby Right Back At Ya is not the same as the Dedede we get in the games. Now obviously Dedede is much more well known for being a good guy nowadays. But even before the anime, the only game in which Dedede was an actual villain in was Dreamland 1. In his second ever appearance, Kirby's Adventure, he's actively protecting Dreamland by hiding the Star Rod from the Fountain of Dreams to stop Nightmare from attacking. In Kirby 64, he's actively on Kirby's side, and all of his boss fights after that point involved him being either possessed or brainwashed. Even for the time this show came out, this version of Dedede just feels so far removed from any of his portrayals in the actual games. I mean, he's literally revealed to be illiterate in one episode. Come on! And sure, his voice and mannerisms can be kinda funny at times, but it's not the same character, not even close. Of the three main Kirby characters in the show, Meta Knight is definitely the one who fares the best. I kinda like the idea of him acting as sort of a mentor to Kirby, and his Spanish accent is iconic. Though it feels like in most episodes, he only serves as to give exposition talk and not really much else. As far as the visuals go, the show mostly looks alright, although the use of CGI can be a little off-putting sometimes. Dynablade has certainly seen better days. Oh, also, Kain is a pedophile in the show, just felt like mentioning that. And overall, this just doesn't feel like a Kirby show to me. The characters all just feel so mean to each other and I hate it. To me at least, the Kirby series has always been about love and friendship. About these kooky characters coming together and forming a found family. And I just don't get that out of this show. I rarely feel like any of the characters actually like each other, and I honestly kinda hate it. But hey, in the interest of fairness, I will bring up a few positive qualities about the show, since I don't think it's completely terrible. I like Chef Kawasaki a lot. I've always found his portrayal in this show to be pretty fun. The theme song is an absolute banger, and it definitely has a reason to be as iconic as it is. And the dog episode is very sad. I mean, it's not Jurassic Bark level, but it's pretty dang sad. I think what gets me most about Kirby Right Back At Ya, more than the show itself, is the impact it had on Kirby's legacy. So many people view Kirby as a simple-minded baby, and Dedede as a ruthless tyrant, and it's all because of this one show. Like, imagine if most people's Mario knowledge came from the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. That'd be kinda insane, right? But hey, if anyone watching this genuinely enjoys the Kirby anime, then more power to you. I wish I could like it. Just keep in mind that it's not at all representative of the actual games. Thanks to Manuel for having me on here to give my perspective on the Kirby anime, and I hope you all have a good one. Squill, out.
And that was Kirby Right Back At Ya, and yep, it's a show that exists alright. but I think the show is bad. Not at all. Amidst all the flaws I had with the show, as a Kirby fan, I definitely found some enjoyment out of it, but it was by its characters or the plenty of references it had. And hell, even I think that casual viewers would enjoy itself by just popping in an episode whenever. But outside of that, I don't really see myself revisiting this show anytime soon. And if you want to get into the Kirby franchise, this isn't really the best way to get into it. Anyway, this has been Manual D, and I'll see you guys when they decide to remake Kirby Triple Deluxe in about a year or two, and I get to talk about why it's the best Kirby game out of all of them, and if you disagree, then you're probably wrong.